Choose MyPlate is a website we're going to be using. On that website is the Super Tracker where you are going to be analyzing your 3-day food records. And Choose MyPlate is a visual, an illustration of the USDA food guide. And what that food guide is basically a guide to what you should be putting on your plate to get the vitamins and minerals, the carbs, protein, and fat that you need to maintain a healthy diet and to prevent chronic diseases. And there have been these different illustrations over the past few decades on illustrating that USDA food guide. The current one, Choose My Plate, it has 5 food groups: grains, fruits, vegetables, protein, and dairy. And the foods that are placed in those food groups are placed there based on their nutrient content. The idea is that if you're picking a variety of foods from these different food groups, that you're going to be getting the nutrition that you need to maintain your health. And what this guide is encouraging is for people to eat more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains, more low-fat, fat-free dairy products, and less of these items: refined grains, meats, and fats and sugars. So one thing that this new USDA food guide has done is really tried to encourage people to choose nutrient-dense choices, whole foods like these fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and less of the refined products and products that have a lot of added fat and a lot of added sugar that don't come packed with much nutrition, in order to get control over our calorie intake and really to boost our vitamin and mineral intake. One way they have done that is to come up with something called discretionary calories. This is my daughter when she was younger. One of her favorite things to do, and still is to lick the spatula after I've made brownies or chocolate cake. And these calories are discretionary. These are calories that are extras, like solid fats and added sugars or alcohol. Discretionary calories also can be used on eating food, more food from any of the food groups, because there are specific guidelines on how much foods we should be eating from the specific food groups. Now, one thing I do want to comment on also is that this is a guide. It does have its weaknesses, and we'll be talking about that. But overall, for the typical American, this is a really good starting place as far as, like, if you have no clue what you should be eating, this is a really good starting point. Now, of course, food is not just about nutrition and the nutrients. We eat for a variety of reasons, and we all have different ideas and philosophies about what we should be putting on our plate. And so this definitely is meant to be a starting point and can be evolved over time and, changed based on your philosophies of food and eating. And we'll be talking more about that. So these discretionary calories, these are meant with the rising prevalence of obesity. With these guidelines, we're really trying to encourage people to think about the added calories that don't come packaged with much nutrition. So when you're picking foods from the different food groups, you want to be trying to pick the most nutrient-dense choices, the foods that are least processed. Not only least processed, but also don't have the added fat and sugar. So examples, with the dairy group, fat-free milk would be the most nutrient-dense choice. Whole milk would be less nutrient-dense because of the added fat and therefore calories it has. The nutrients are the same in fat-free and skim milk. They have the same amount of calcium, potassium, protein, vitamins A and D if they've been fortified, but what's different is the calorie content, because the whole milk will have added fat. So whole milk is less nutrient dense because of that added fat. Or it's not really added, it comes from the cow, but with the fat-free milk it's been removed. Skinless chicken breast would be the most nutrient-dense choice with the protein group. A less nutrient-dense choice would be something like a ribeye steak. Not that you can't have ribeye steak, but if you do choose the ribeye steak, you're going to be using those discretionary calories. And those discretionary calories add up really quickly, which I'll show you. Typical person gets around 300 discretionary calories. This will vary depending on the individual, the more active you are, the more discretionary calories you get. But what this means is if you need 2,000 calories to maintain your weight, that means you need 1,700 calories and just really good nutrient dense choices to get the vitamins and minerals and other nutrition that you need. And then 300 calories you can kind of splurge on or basically throw away. I mean, you don't have to worry about the nutrition that comes packed with them. When this number starts growing bigger, it's going to be really hard to meet your nutrient requirements. Now, I don't want you to get obsessed with this number. This is not necessarily something you need to count, but it's really meant to give you the big picture of how important it is to pick nutrient-dense choices and how these added calories can really add up quickly. So again, discretionary calories are the extras from added fat and added sugar, and again, more of any food from any of the food groups, but primarily it's going to be from this added fat and added sugar. So examples of foods that contain discretionary calories, we have regular hamburger, 95% fat, or I should say 95% lean hamburger would be a more nutrient-dense choice. Whole milk, skim milk would be a more nutrient-dense choice. Butter, margarine, lard, shortening, alcohol, sweetened yogurt, chips, sodas, and then added sugars that you put on items like jam, honey, sugar. Now, discretionary calories, they also can encourage nutrient-dense choices and nutrient-dense eating. I don't know about you, but I loved steamed broccoli with a little bit of butter on it, a little bit of salt. So these discretionary calories can really encourage us to eat nutrient-dense choices. We just want to be cautious about how much we're using and eating. So to give you some more examples of how these calories can kind of add up quickly, here's a regular soda. This is a 12-ounce can of regular soda, and it has 155 calories. All of that is discretionary because this is simply sugar water. It does not compact with any nutrition. So all of the calories are going to be discretionary. So 2 regular sodas, and most people have met their discretionary calorie requirement for the day. That's not including the sugar in their breakfast cereal, the sugar in their granola bar, the sugar in their yogurt, the beer that they might have with dinner. French fries. French fries are a potato. They do belong in the vegetable group because they are potato. They have discretionary calories because of the oil that they're fried in. More nutrient-dense choice would be a baked potato. But baked potato, again, if you put the butter, sour cream, cheese on it, you would be adding discretionary calories. Potatoes themselves are great nutrition. They're high in potassium, vitamin C, fiber. It's what we fry them in or put on them, which can make them really calorie heavy. Whole wheat piece of bread, no discretionary calories. Croissant, buttery, flaky, that comes from the added fat. So some discretionary calories there. Here is the food groups that fall within the MyPlate. We have the grains, the fruits, the vegetables. Here it's listed as meat and beans, but now it's called the protein group and the milk group. And this just gives you an idea of what type of foods can fall into these different categories. And that is in your textbook, that chart. So how much is needed? Now, you don't need to memorize how much is needed. Like I mentioned, you're going to be going to the Choose My Plate website and using the Super Tracker to create your own personalized plan. But this just kind of gives you an idea of some portions. And I do want you to be familiar with what an ounce equivalent or what a cup is in these different food groups. So let's look at that. So when we talk about grains, we talk about ounces. Half of our grains should be whole grains. We'll talk more about that in the carbohydrate chapter. So what counts as an ounce? A slice of bread, anything starchy, mushy like rice, cereal, pasta. A half a cup counts as an ounce, a cup of breakfast cereal. Now, cereals are all over the map. You cannot be certain that a cup of cereal is actually an ounce. You really have to look at the label. The same goes for bread. So let's look at an example of that. Now keep in mind 30 grams is equal to an ounce because usually on food labels they'll talk about grams instead of ounces. Here's granola. Granola is very dense. A half a cup is almost 2 ounces, 60 grams. Remember 30 grams is an ounce. So back on this slide, we said a cup of breakfast cereal is an ounce. And here we can see we've already found an example where that's not the case. A half a cup is 2 ounces. Then with something that's less dense, something like puffed rice, you look at the nutrition facts label, 1 cup is only a half an ounce. So you actually get 2 cups for an ounce. This is just showing that you really need to look at the food labels. 5 wheat crackers is an ounce. So if you only need 5 ounces of grains a day and you sit down and eat a half a box of crackers, you can see that's going to add up really quickly. And that's the one thing I really like about the MyPlate illustration is that it really does give you an idea of balance. And if we eat a half a box of crackers, what does that mean we're not eating? What is that crowding out? Maybe we're not eating enough fruits. Maybe we're not eating enough vegetables. So it really does drive home the point of balance. 3 cups of popcorn is an ounce. Portions in general are getting really a balloon size. So here is a 3-ounce bagel. This is typical that you would buy in the store or buy in a bagel shop. If you want a 1-ounce bagel, then that would be the smaller size. The advantage to the smaller size, you have room to add other foods on this plate. So you're not just having a bagel, but you're going to add some other foods to add that balance again. One of the authors that I love, Nancy Clark, I use her sports nutrition book in my sports nutrition class, is she says that at a meal you should aim for at least 3 foods, a snack for at least 2 foods. And I like that rule of thumb. Again, the smaller portions allow you to get that increased variety and balance with the food groups. Vegetables cup is the unit here that we're talking about. Beans do count as a vegetable. You can see 1 cup of beans or tofu counts as a cup. Basically, a cup of cooked or raw vegetables or a cup of juice counts as a cup. If it's something leafy like spinach or lettuce, you need to double it, 2 cups. And here's just some visuals of what that looks like and different foods that fall into this category. For fruits, you can choose fresh, frozen, canned, or dried. The recommendation is to go easy on fruit juices, so only a third of our fruit should be coming from juice. And a cup of fresh fruit or juice counts as a cup. Dried fruit, more concentrated, so you only get a half a cup of dried fruit. And canned, very economical, not necessarily a bad choice as long as you're eating a variety. Frozen can be great too, very nutrient dense, and you can eat things out of season that still taste good. The dairy I'm going to skip over, but I will show you what counts as a cup. You can go on the Choose My Plate website and get a lot more information on this as far as what counts as a cup, different ideas of foods. I mean, there is just a wealth of information on that website. Meat and beans, I just want to show you all the different variety of foods that can count as meat and beans. Not only meat, but eggs, peanut butter, beans, nuts or seeds, and tofu as well. Almonds. 1 ounce of almonds, which is about the size of a golf ball, counts as 2 ounces of meat. So, these foods just really add up quick as far as the portions go. And then the oils, here's an idea of the different foods that can count as fats. So the textbook talks more about this information. The website does as well. If you have any questions about this, please post them in the forum on Moodle.